My name is Carrie. I'm the Animal Training and Enrichment Coordinator filling in with our screech owl today. This is Ollie. She is one of our eastern screech owls that we have here at the Virginia Living Museum. And she is one of our ambassador animals. She's a program animal that goes out for education. She'll go to schools and special events, weddings, things like that. And she teaches, she's a good opportunity to be teaching about the owls that are found around Virginia out in the wild. She is a native species here, and actually she is the smallest species that we have in the area. She is, again, an eastern screech owl, and this little girl, Ollie, is her name. She is actually an adult. So she is a fully grown adult owl. This is the size, the typical size for eastern screech owls. They get about the size and weight of a Capri Sun or a juice box. That gives you an idea of how much. It's about 4 to 8 ounces. So she won't get any bigger than this. She's been with us since around 2012. She came in as an injured animal. A lot of the owls come to us here as injured animals from the wild, as rescues. These guys are actually susceptible to getting hit by cars a lot of times. What happens is you'll find a lot of people will throw out trash and they think, okay, well maybe it's not going to be a piece of plastic or a cup, but since it's a biodegradable apple or banana peel, I can throw that out the door and it's not going to be a big deal. Well, there's a little bit of the natural ability to excrement some of that, get rid of some of that food. So what happens is we actually have these birds that will come to the roadsides, because when that trash gets thrown out, the apple core, the banana peels, things like that, and they get thrown out the cars on the roadsides, it attracts rodents, mice, and things that the owls like to eat. So the owls will swoop down, try to get a mouse from the roadside, and actually get clipped by a car. When that happens, they sustain a lot of damage. Ollie's particular story is that she actually has an eye injury. So you can see when she looks straight at the camera that she's got 2 different pupils, 2 different shapes to her pupils. That's because she's got what is believed to be a detached retina, and that's why it looks a little bit funny. So her vision is a little bit skewed. She can't see quite as well. We've got a question already.
Yes, we do. Jada from Williamsburg would like to know, what animals are Ollie's predators?
What are Ollie's predators? Well, actually, being that she's a small owl, she's got quite a few if they can catch her. They're pretty agile and quick, so they can fly pretty well away from things that are on the land. But larger owls, like the great horned owl, red-tailed hawks, things like that can catch them. And if they are on the ground, anything from like coyotes, bobcats, even a cat or a dog can get something. When they're babies in the nest, pretty much the same things will try to take them. So those are some of the predators for these guys. Got another question?
Yes, Alice, age 4, would like to know if the screech owls come in different colors and how big do they get?
That is a great question. They actually do come in different colors, but pretty much only 2 different colors and variations of those 2 colors. Ollie here is what's called a red phase or a red morph. So lots of that reddish brown coloring, rusty coloring, and then there's also a gray phase, and those are good for, both of those colors are natural colors occurring in the wild, so they can blend into the trees. Got another question?
Yes, how old is it?
How old is this? So she actually, we're not 100% sure because she was an adult when we got her, and she was in the wild, so we don't know an exact birth date, but we had her back in, I believe, 2012, and she was estimated to be about 5 years then. So yeah, another question?
Yeah, we do. Rosa, age 8, would like to know, what do they eat?
What do they eat? So they are primarily going to eat a lot of mice, other rodents, rats, mice, things like that, shrews, even though those aren't rodents. And they'll eat frogs, snakes, small birds. They are a big hunter of the European starling that was an invasive species to the country.
Yes, Neoma, age 3, wants to know, why do they have a short beak?
Why do they have a short beak? Well, that's just kind of one of the things that they have to be able to hold on to their prey. So it's kind of hooked, and you can see that that's a good way to kind of catch an animal and hold on to it and eat their prey. Another question?
Yes. Libby, age 10, would like to know where they primarily live.
Well, they are an eastern screech owl, so they're found along the eastern side of the United States, and their habitat is woods, pretty much anything that has maybe some water around where there's good amount of different variations of prey, but definitely along the wood side and in the woods.
Does Ollie have any siblings with her?
We don't have any of her relatives, no. And we wouldn't even know if she had relatives coming around because, again, she was out in the wild before we got her. Another question?
Yes. What do they do to defend themselves?
Well, you can kind of see her eyes are kind of big right now, and she's kind of puffing up a little bit. If she sees a predator coming up, she'll get really puffy. She's pretty relaxed at the moment, but when the camera gets a little closer, she gets a little tiny bit puffier and brighter eyed. Those are just indications that she's not comfortable, so she'll get even puffier and she'll start moving her head around, and then she'll hiss and clack her beak. And then if that all fails and she can't shoo away the predator, she's gonna take off. Another question?
Yep. We have a couple people asking how many babies can they have, and Elliot, age 5, wants to know how far they can see.
How far they can see? Well, they can see for quite a bit of ways. I don't have an actual amount, but she can probably see within the mile of her predators, or her prey rather. She can get over and see the animals down on the roadside from way up in a tree. She's got excellent night vision because she is a nocturnal bird, so they hunt primarily at night. And then as far as how many babies they can have, they lay eggs, and I believe they lay up to 3 to 6 eggs. I'm not 100% on that one, but I believe that's the clutch.
And I think some people came in late, so can we go over what her name is and what do they eat?
Absolutely. So this is Ollie. She is our eastern screech owl, and she's a red phase eastern screech owl. They also come in a gray color. She is an ambassador here at the Virginia Living Museum, so she goes out for programs. She's one of our education birds. And she is a big eater of rodents. So she loves rodents, but she'll also eat birds. We feed the rodents here, but they are known for catching starlings out in the wild. So they will catch birds about their size or smaller. So you can kind of just see she's moving around, looking at things, moving her head. It is a myth that the owls can turn their heads all the way around. You can see that she's got pretty good fixed sight. She can figure out where things are. Those eyes are in the front of her head, so she can take a focus on things. But she can't turn her head all the way around. That would mean she wouldn't really have a neck bone. So she can turn mostly around like a 270 degree instead of a 360.
What territory of the U.S. can they be found in?
They are up and down the East Coast, and they stretch over to about Texas as far as the western range.
How old can the baby owl, or the baby owls when they leave the nest, are they solitary?
Once they fledge, they kind of hang out around mom for a little bit, but then they're pretty much on their own. They don't necessarily stay with mom. So they'll fledge after a few weeks.
Does she like to be petted? There's a few people here who would like to pet her.
We actually don't tend to pet the owls quite as often. We tend to try to let them have their space, let them do their thing. It wouldn't be a natural behavior for people petting owls out in the wild, so we try to replicate a lot of the natural behavior. But with that being said, we do get these animals quite accustomed to being around people. Since they're here with us in the care of humans for the rest of their lives, since they can't return to the wild with those injuries like her eye issue, we want to make sure that she's very comfortable around people. So we take it at her pace. We make sure that the animals have a lot of choice and control, and we watch her body language and try to determine what exactly she's telling us, if she's comfortable with things or not. Another question?
Yes, Raven, age 6, would like to know if they change colors.
They don't actually change colors as far as the red phase and the gray phase. Once they're born one color or the other. But as they age, they start out as little fluff balls. So they look like little puffs of cotton, and then they'll get those feathers in as they age and they molt, and those colors will darken up a little bit.
Why do they screech?
Why do they screech? Well, that's actually a good question because that's the name of them. They are a screech owl. They are known for screeching. And that actually is a form of communication between each other. They can scream at each other. They're territorial. They don't want other screech owls in their area unless it's for mating. So they can be a little bit protective of their space. And they'll scream at each other and they'll scream at predators.
How old can screech owls get from Brad?
Well, they can live, if they're in the care of humans, they can live upwards to about 20 years or so. But out in the wild, typically those animals don't live quite as long. So probably 8 or 10 years is a good, pretty long life for an eastern screech owl out in the wild.
And how long has she been here at the museum?
She came to us around 2012, so a few years.
What can we do as homeowners to support their habitat?
Awesome question. You basically want to make sure that you don't litter, and that way, again, don't litter along the roadsides. You won't encourage them to get hit by cars. You want to have a lot of natural habitat, plant native trees and plants in your yard, which will encourage a lot of the native species to come around that area, and then that would encourage the eastern screech owl's food sources to live in the area. And you want to have a lot of woods in your areas where you're going to see them.
Genevieve, age 5, would like to know how large they get.
This is it. This is pretty much the size. She might get a little tiny bit bigger, not her particularly, but owls in general, or screech owls in general, might be a little bit bigger than her. They're about 4 to 8 ounces. So if you compare with the size of a Capri Sun, so maybe the juice box or a Capri Sun, that's a good idea or a good range of how big they get.
What are visual differences between male and female, colors, patterns, etc.?
Colors and patterns, etc. The difference is really with the screech owl, they're not actually sexually dimorphic, which means there's a difference between the males and the females. She's actually watching. We had somebody walk in our door, one of our employees, and you can see she's actually getting kind of small right now. She's not quite sure, so she's trying to look very, very small and not so intimidating. So
Looks like her ears came up too.
But going back to the question, there's not a lot of difference between the males and the females except for size. The males actually are a little bit smaller than the females.
How many owls do we have from Andrew?
We have 2 screech owls, I believe, right now. We have 1 great horned owl, and we have a barred owl. I think she's kind of figured out that our friend employee moved on, so she's kind of relaxing again.
Owen, age 7, would like to know, can they see colors or are they colorblind?
They don't see the same colors that we do. They are mostly colorblind, but honestly, I don't remember what colors it is. We will get back to you on that question.
Garth says that owls have been very popular lately in eyeglass commercials. Do they actually have good eyesight?
They actually do have really good eyesight as far as it goes in the night vision. They can see really well. They can see from a long period or a long distance, and they are attack hunters. They will swoop down and jump on their prey when they see it.
How did she get the eye injury?
She more than likely was hit by a car. That's usually what happens to a lot of these small owls. They again will get clipped by a car and sustain damage. Sometimes it's wing damage and they can no longer fly, but sometimes it's eye damage, and you can see that with the shape of her eye. And you can see, because she is a good flyer, we've got a Jess on her, which is a little leash, and she's attached by these little bracelets on her legs, and then it's attached to my glove. And that just means that it's a good way to make sure that she's safe and secure, because since she was injured in the wild, she can no longer hunt very well with that poor eyesight with the bad eye. So she actually would not take care of herself in the wild quite as well, and that's why she has that leash on. Any other questions out there for us?
No, we still have a lot of visitors here, so anything else you can say about this bird? Why don't we go over again what her name is and what kind of owl she is?
This is Ollie. She is an eastern screech owl, and she has been with us for quite a few years. And she, again, is an education animal, so she goes out to programs and teaches about them. We do have a question.
Yes, well, we kind of have someone who's interested in volunteering, so when we're able to bring people back into volunteer, what do I need to do? And I can answer that. You just visit our website, thevlm.org, and go to our volunteer page, and it should lead you to different information on how and when we can have volunteers, but you just apply. You just apply to be a volunteer, and our dedicated volunteer services coordinator office will find a place for you. We do have another question. Kieran would like to know why they like to eat rodents, and then Gray is asking how old she is.
So the reason they like rodents is because it's just something yummy for them as part of their natural diet. They also really like to eat birds as well, so small birds, sparrows, starlings, things like that. Here at the museum, it is a lot of rodents, the mice, and they also get quail chicks, things like that as well here at the VLM. And then what was the other question?
How old is she?
Oh, how old is she? She actually, we're not 100% sure how old she is because she was found as a wild, she was rescued from the wild, and she was an adult at that point. They estimated her to be about 5 years of age, and she was here around 2012, so she's probably about 10 or 15, give or take.
Do screech owls cough up pellets like other owls?
They do. They actually do cough up those pellets, and that is a way to get rid of the fur and the bones, because they pretty much, most owls will swallow their prey whole. Sometimes they'll pick them apart, but for the most part they'll swallow their prey whole, so they will cough up the feathers, the bones, the fur from animals that they eat into a pellet. And if you're out and about walking in the woods and you find an owl pellet, that's a great science experiment if you want to get some gloves on and pick apart that owl pellet to see what they actually eat.
How old will she live to be from Elliot, age 5?
Well, she could live in the care of humans upwards to about 20 years of age or so. So hopefully she'll be with us for quite a while.
We got another, why do they screech?
Why do they screech? That's just the sound they make. It's one of their ways to communicate with each other and to let other animals like predators know that they're not happy about it.
Is she average size for her species? I'm surprised she's so small.
She is actually average size for her species. She is a full-grown adult, and this is pretty much the exact size that an eastern screech owl would get.
How much do they eat per day?
In the wild, they would eat several meals, 4 or 5 mice, maybe a couple birds, that sort of thing. Whenever they can find it, it's not a regular thing necessarily. They just hunt until they can find something. Here at the museum, they get a regular meal every single evening.
What's the biggest size animal they would be able to catch and carry?
I would say probably a starling. So if you know what the European starling looks like, it's a small black bird almost. That's about the size that they would probably catch.
Do they also eat bugs like other birds?
They might pick apart a beetle or two here and there, but it's not a main diet, not a main ant thing that's in their diet.
How many different colors are owls? I'm assuming you mean the screech owls.
The screech owls come in both a red and a gray phase. So they are either reddish brown like you see Ollie here, or like a gray color, almost the color of that background wall that you see.
Caden, age 6, wants to know, what do they drink?
What do they drink? They drink water. Yeah. Water is the best.
How was she injured?
How was she injured? She was probably hit by a car. We believe that she came into us when somebody found her after she was hit by a car along the roadside. And she got an eye injury from that, and that's why we have her. She can't see as well any longer.
How social is she? She seems very happy to hear you talk.
She has gotten used to being around people. Again, we try to make sure that these animals are very comfortable with us, since they're going to be living with us for the rest of their lives. So we make sure that they are habituated to the presence of the keepers that take care of them and the educators that take them out for programs. They get pretty comfortable. And as far as other owls, they can be a little bit territorial. Sometimes they'll be okay with other owls, but Ollie here, she's had a friend once in the past, and then she pretty much determined that she's happy being on her own.
Do they change their plumage based on the season?
Not really. This is pretty much going to be the same color. They might have a little bit of a variation, just to kind of keep up with the changing of the bark and things, but pretty much for the most part they're going to stay the same, and that coloring is very good camouflage against the bark of trees.
Are they endangered?
These guys are not endangered. They are, I believe, under least concern.
And we've had a few requests to see her legs.
You want to see her legs? She's kind of sitting on them. She's got her feathers fluffed up. Let's see if we can kind of show a foot. There's a foot. There's some talons there.
Yeah, she's pretty hunkered down. Looks pretty comfortable.
Yep, she's just comfortable hanging out, watching things as we go and chilling on the finger there.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. So guys, thank you for joining us with Ollie. Oh, she's got her feet out for you to see. Oh, we've got one more question. How do they mate?
How do they mate? Well, they will make some vocalizations and call to each other, and once they find one of the birds that they like, they'll kind of hang out and just kind of chill together.
Do what they do.
Do what they do, that's right.
So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Be sure to join us for more natural education here on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And come back later this afternoon at 2:30. We'll have another live programming for you today. Hopefully we'll be able to go talk to the otters with Carrie here. And if you guys are able, please consider adopting a wild thing or contributing to our emergency fund. You can find information on that on thevlm.org. That's our website. So thanks again for joining. We really do all these programs for you, and Ollie looks forward to seeing you guys when we open up again. Bye.
Bye.